Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another video. This one is a little bit different for me. And actually, I recorded almost all this video and then realized I didn't record it. I just had my screen up and I was watching myself on my phone, but I didn't see down here where the length of time has elapsed. So the excitement's still there, just maybe not as intense as it was recording this 10 minutes ago. So this is an idea I came up with, and I'm hoping it's going to be a thread, so please hop on if you're interested in doing it. What I'm going to be doing is ranking my 10 favorite artists that have 5 albums or less in their discography. Now, before you jump on me for the first 2 choices that I'm going to make, what I decided was that side projects of artists were going to go to the bottom of the list simply because those artists have an expansive amount of work, and to count their side projects is it's just, it doesn't seem fair to the more indie artists that I have from number 8 onward. So without further ado, let's jump in. Number 10, the Traveling Willberries. Of course, the Willberries consist of Tom Petty, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Bob Dylan. And they are the boys. And I've talked about this album extensively on my channel. It's probably the most foundational album that I've ever heard. Without this album, I don't know that I ever would have gotten into Bob Dylan. And I don't think without Bob Dylan, I never would have gotten into, guys like Tom Waits. Without Tom Petty, I probably never would have gotten into the Byrds. So this album is just very, very influential to expand my musical palette beyond just, the Beatles' greatest hits. So, Traveling Willberries Volume 1 specifically is a top 10 album for me. But again, they have 2 albums, Volume 1 and Volume 3. Volume 1 is just incredible. Volume 3, has some great stuff on there like Poorhouse, Seven Deadly Sins, She's My Baby, Inside Out, and then the very fun Willberry Twist. So Traveling Willberries are number 10, but they're one of my favorite pairs of records. And number 9, in the same vein, Mudcrutch. And they put out 2 albums, and of course Mudcrutch is the side project of Tom Petty, Mike Campbell, and Ben Montench of the Heartbreakers. It was their original band before breaking it big with the Heartbreakers. You also have Randall Marsh on the drums and Tom Leadon on guitar. Tom Leadon, of course, his brother is Bernie Leadon of the Eagles, who also then went on to join up with the Burrito Brothers as well. So this was the last effort that Tom Petty had before his death, the last full effort. This came out in 2016, I believe. Yeah, 2016. And it's all original songs. The first album that they put out, just called Mudcrutch, had a lot of old traditional songs, had some country songs, a few originals. It had a cover by the Byrds, Lover of the Bayou. But Mudcrutch, number 8. So from now, everything else that I have, you may or may not have heard of them before. So these are more indie, folky artists that have a small discography. So number 8, this is a group called the Mulligan Brothers, Americana Act. This was their debut album, self-titled. There's the track list. I got this used online because their albums were mostly out of print. And I bought this and didn't realize that it was signed by the band, so that's kind of cool. But great songs on here. Cecilia, Lay Here is probably their biggest hit. Sensible Shoes. They kind of take the lyrics of Oh Susanna, the old song, incorporate it into a chorus of another song that they wrote called Oh Susanna. Really, really strong album. Just really tight harmonies, great melodies. So check them out, the Mulligan Brothers. I believe they have 3 albums, and then they disbanded. Next, the Lumineers. I know I've talked about them a lot. This is their 4th album, and their most recent, called Brightside. The Lumineers are Jeremiah Freites and Wesley Schultz. They were childhood friends, and now they've got like this kind of emotional, kind of stomp clap music. Very kind of pubby isn't the word. Like they kind of got some songs that you could sing in a pub, but more evocative lyrics, more emotional, a lot of personal experiences drawn into it. And this is their newest from this year, and it's starting to get to the point where it might be close to a favorite of mine for the year. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 9, 8. Sorry, I'm struggling. Number 6, George Ezra. This is a gent from the UK. Great baritone singer, kind of similar to Rick Astley in terms of the timbre of his voice. He has 3 albums. A new one just came out last week called Gold Rush Kid, which I'll show on my monthly wrap-up video. The thing about George Ezra that gets on my nerves, first of all, his music is great. He's very poppy, but he incorporates a lot of styles from like Paul Simon, maybe some 80s music, maybe Vampire Weekend a little bit. So he's got several different influences, very melodic. The thing is, it takes him forever to put out an album. So his first album came out early on in my college days. And then this album, I've been out of college for 6 years. And the second album, this one, came out in 2018 called I'm Staying at Tamara's. And then the last one just came out this year, just a week ago. So, and he's a young guy. It's not like he's old and has another stream of income coming in somewhere else from past record sales or huge concerts. So I don't know how this guy stays afloat, but I like his music. I just wish there was more of it. All right, number 5. I've talked about this group as well. This is Jamestown Revival. They were a duo, Americana, kind of a rootsy rock band with some great harmonies, kind of like Everly Brothers. So I really like them a lot. They've got 4 albums and then a few EPs, but in terms of full-length albums, they only have 4. Their most recent one came out this year called Young Man. Fantastic. And I know Randall Nelson got turned on to them after one of my videos, so that made me feel good. Number 4, this is a group called Good Old War. They're a trio of harmony singers. You have Keith Goodwin, Dan Schwartz, and Tim Arnold, I believe are their names. I'll double check that. Keith Goodwin, Dan Schwartz, and Tim Arnold. Yep. So this was their most recent physical release called Broken Into Better Shape. It's probably my favorite album by them. They did put out a series of digital EPs. I want to say like 2017 or so, 2018. They just don't release them physically, which is really annoying. So they've got 4 full-length albums. They've got a live album as well, and then they have the series of 3 EPs online, which I'm hoping will come back out. And they don't tour much anymore these days. I don't know what the deal is, but I like them a lot, like all their music. Number 3. Now, if I was basing this, if this group had only put out this album, they might be top of the list. This was my favorite album last year. This is Lord Huron. This is their album Long Lost, their most recent. It's their 4th album. And they are kind of a cinematic Americana group. Although I wouldn't even call it Americana. It's more like Chris Isaak. And I know some people like Orville Peck. I've heard that they're compared to Orville Peck a little bit. But this was my favorite album of 2021. And I think the reason that they're number 3 and not number 1 is because I don't know their other stuff extensively. I have all their stuff, but I don't know it that well. Other than the album Strange Trails. It's just, it hasn't been embedded in me like some of the other artists have, I guess is the thing. So, number 3, Lord Huron. Number 2, the fantastic Nick Drake. This is his second album called Brighter Later. He only put out 3 albums and then unfortunately took his own life. Another gent from the UK. But very, very great stuff. This album in particular, if you like Astro Weeks, and I know I've said this a million times, but if you like Astro Weeks by Van Morrison, check out Brighter Later. This one has more orchestral music in it, in terms of like the background with him singing. The other two albums, Five Leaves Left and Pink Moon, are essentially just him on acoustic guitar. And he's got this very breathy voice, almost like Colin Blunstone of the Zombies. So, Brighter Later, Nick Drake with 3 albums, comes in at number 2. And then number 1, clocking in at 5 albums, The Head and the Heart. I love The Head and the Heart. They are out of Seattle. This is their first album, self-titled. Again, just a fantastic Americana. Not even America. They're not even really Americana. They're folk, like indie folk. At least their first 2 albums were very folky. This album and then the album Let's Be Still. And then they started kind of branching out on Signs of Light. They kind of became more poppy, but they still had that kind of some of those elements from these first 2 albums. And then they broke into the album Living Mirage, their 4th album, and they went full on pop, kind of mainstream. And then they just put out their newest album called Every Shade of Blue, which is fantastic. I'm actually seeing them in September in Richmond, Virginia, so I'm excited for that. But yeah, number 1, Head and the Heart. And I just realized I failed to mention another group, and I'll go ahead and pull them out. The Wild Feathers. I love the Wild Feathers as well. Actually, if I was to redo this list, I'd literally just remembered the Wild Feathers. I would probably take out, well, I would have to take out the Mulligan Brothers at the bottom. And I would probably put the Wild Feathers at number 2 after Nick Drake. So, just to recap, number 10, Traveling Willberries. 9, Mudcrutch. Lumineers at 8. George Ezra at 7. Jamestown Revival at 6. Good Old War at 5. Lord Huron at 4. Now it's Nick Drake at 3. The Wild Feathers at 2. Head and the Heart, number 1. So, sorry about that, but I literally just remembered the Wild Feathers. And if you don't know the Wild Feathers, I've got other videos about them. But just a great Southern rock group. So anyway, there you go. Again, I would love to see this as a thread. Please subscribe, do all those things that you're supposed to do. And I look forward to talking to y'all in the comments. So y'all be good. Take care. Talk to y'all real soon. Bye now.